Welcome to the Value Driven Brand Podcast, where you'll learn insights on how to communicate with authenticity, deliver genuine value, and create a memorable experience across your entire customer journey, helping your business become the sought-after leader in your industry. I'm your host, Aileen. Now, on to the show. G'day everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Value Driven Brand Podcast. I am your host, Aileen Day, and today, as usual, I am absolutely spellbound by today's guest, and you will be too. It is the one, the only, the creator and founder of SourceBottle, and we're going to tell you all about what SourceBottle is, just in case you don't know, but it is Bec Derrington. Bec, thank you so much for joining me. I have been hoping and waiting to get you on this show for so many months since I met you, the day I met you at Kate Engler's Meet the Press Masterclass. And I'm so glad today has finally come around. How are you?
Oh, that is such a lovely introduction, Aileen. Thank you. I'm really good. I'm pumped to have a chat with you today.
Oh, brilliant. Now, if you don't know who Bec Derrington is, she, as I mentioned, is the founder of SourceBottle. Now, not tomato sauce, not barbecue sauce, source, as in the place you find things, SOURCE, bottle. And SourceBottle is the most amazing website and one of very few of its kind in the world, I might add. And it is basically where journalists and the media go to find people in the know. Oh, I think I just came up with a tagline for you.
I know, I love it. That's awesome.
P.S.
Where they go for people in the know. I love it. Right.
My PR degree just paid for itself.
It did. That was very clever.
But in essence, that is exactly what SourceBottle is. It is the place where people who need to find people in the know, in the media, will go to look for amazing experts and subject matter experts and anybody that can help them with what they're trying to create news for. And she herself is a PR and marketing professional. She is the founder and disruptor of this publicity platform, SourceBottle, and it is a free subscription service, and it distributes to more than 14 million emails a year. And she says it's growing daily, but we're going to talk about this very soon. It's growing so big, she's just put it out to Singapore. So absolute snaps to you and the SourceBottle team. It is so phenomenal. And it is so also wonderful to see businesses growing exponentially, even despite what has happened in the last 12 months. And I can certainly imagine that the media is not an engine that is slowing down. So it is so great to see you also building up alongside what has been a phenomenal year in news and television. But Bec has a simple vision for her business, and that is for every journalist using the service to be inundated with responses from quality, because you can have quantity, but quality resources, and for every SourceBottle subscriber to get famous using it. So guess what I do? I use SourceBottle. I'm famous. In my lunchbox. That's not true. I actually, thanks to SourceBottle, have had a number of national articles and publications put out to the ether. So I am certainly one of SourceBottle's raving fans, and I love what you do. And I thank you every day that I get the opportunity to put my expertise and my skills and my knowledge into a new facet of the media. And I think, geez, imagine if this website didn't exist, what would we all be doing? So I just love what you've created. But I am also interested, how did you get there? What did you do one day where you're like, you know what, this is a thing I'm going to do? How did that happen?
Well, okay, so the SourceBottle itself has been running now for 11 years, which is just ridiculous. Like that just is like so old, right? And the idea sort of germinated out of just my own personal challenges, so my own personal problems. I was running a PR company back then, and it was sort of, I only had one child at the time, so I'd sort of stepped down from a corporate career and went in, did my own thing, and I had this sort of PR, sort of communications consultancy called Wagging Tongues, and I did a lot of PR for small clients, but in lots of disparate industry areas, and I'd moved from Queensland. I followed my heart, moved from Queensland, where I probably had the most recent experience dealing with the media in my roles, and I moved to Victoria. So I was sort of in uncharted waters in covering a whole lot of different areas that I didn't know any journalists in. Or B, the industry itself was just in a state of flux, as it has been for years, with online and legacy media being squeezed a bit and online media kind of really taking hold. And then also I was, I was working in a state, and that I didn't know anybody. So it was this sort of perfect storm. So in answer to that, I thought there's got to be an easier way, because I used to brace myself. I mean, as ridiculous as this is, I was terrified of journalists. And that follow-on call, the follow-up call where you call and go, hi, just seeing if there's anything, if you can do anything with this story, or if there's something else that, perhaps, or I can provide you with a case study. Of that follow-up call, I used to trip over my own tongue. It was just, I was just like, sweating, stressing, because journalists don't have a lot of time. And
No.
To say that they're sensitive to people who call them, I mean, they're harassed constantly. In fairness, this is not a poor reflection on them at all. But I just thought the whole business industry was just ridiculous. And I used to liken it, but, I'm going to use a different metaphor this time. I used to liken it to being at a restaurant and walking in and saying to the, the person who meets you at the door, listen, I'm just going to sit at this table and I want all the waiting staff to just throw every bit of food at me, and I'll see if I like anything that is thrown at me.
I want to go to that restaurant.
Yeah, well, who wants to go to that restaurant? Well, see, and that's really what journalists were being fed every day. Like, they're being inundated with hundreds of press releases. I mean, there still are, but hundreds of press releases. And it's kind of this crazy dance that we do with journalists, when I thought, why don't you give them a menu? Give them the opportunity to order what they want. So put a call out for what expertise they want, what subject matter expert they want to comment on what issue or what case study they're looking for to sort of talk about their own experiences. Why don't we actually create that menu? And that's sort of how I now sort of think it's more like, because I'm a soccer mum, and so I was thinking, okay, it's kind of like, a goalie, but the reverse, like the goalie in goals and people firing balls at them, and they only catch one. But in this game, this form of soccer, that's what you're wanting. You're wanting to hit that target. And I kind of so crowdsourcing was becoming a bit of a thing. We had different platforms that were really starting to use that crowdsourcing concept, and people were starting to accept it. And I thought, okay, well, why don't we crowdsource great experts, including myself and my clients, for the journalists, and then they'll love me because I'm giving them what they want, rather than spamming them with stuff they don't.
Wow.
And so that's kind of how the idea came about. And what I did actually, and I think this was kind of a secret to the success, I had to back myself. Like, I had to say, okay, I'm going to commit a significant investment.
Yeah.
I'm going to fund it by continuing my PR work for a period of time, but I want to have a cutoff there. And I'm going to just make the website look like it's a significant investment. I'm not here for a short time. So people will have the confidence that this service is going to be around in a year, 2 years, whatever. They'll invest in it if I invest in it. I wanted it to appear as if it was much bigger than me, but it was just me for a very long time. And I thought, okay, you know what? Journalists are going to love it. The PR industry is going to love it. Like, everyone's going to love it. And I could not have been more wrong. Like I threw a whole heap of money at it. I built it. And of course I had that, build it and they will come.
I just wrote an article about exactly that.
Really?
Yes.
So you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Well, we all take ourselves way too seriously. And I think, I'm at that age, that stage in my life where I probably don't as much these days as I used to.
I definitely don't.
Yeah. I mean, I've got the scar tissue, and I've made an absolute, joke of myself from, different. I've stumbled many times, but you know what, you get up. So I kind of think, so anyway, one of the first things that happened was I was nearly ready to launch, and then Kevin Rudd was Prime Minister for the first time at this stage, and he was on a show called Rove. I don't know if you remember.
Yes,
Rove,
I remember Rove. Say hi to your mum.
Say hi to your mum for me. and so anyway, he was having a conversation, and he said for the first time, went on to say it many times afterwards, fair shake of the sauce bottle. Now the expression is fair suck of the sauce bottle, but anyway, he said fair shake of the sauce bottle, and I thought, my God, I've got to newsjack that, right? So I launched virtually the next day, and I sent a press release out and sprayed it everywhere, because that was the hard thing. I couldn't be targeted. I wanted every journalist to know about it. So I just had to sort of, again, throw lots of money at trying to sort of get the message out, disseminated as far and wide as possible, leveraging from the Prime Minister, can give this sauce bottle a fair shake, right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's perfect.
So it worked really, really well, except for the fact that on Twitter, which is my preferred sandpit, so of choice, that's because that's where journalists play. That's where PR people play.
Yeah.
And back then, even more so. I mean, it's probably sort of waned a bit over the years, but the journalists are still all over. They break news on Twitter. They find sources on Twitter. They talk. I love Twitter. It's my favorite. Yeah. So anyway, on SourceBottle, on Twitter, I saw some journalists starting to talk about SourceBottle and saying things like, "Oh, I'm going to ask it for a pony. I'm going to ask and then Rumbrella, I think they did a story on it, and they pretty much described it as a tool for lazy journalists. So I was kind of surprised. I thought,
what? And now they use you. That's what's hilarious.
Oh yeah. And then the other thing was, because I was part of the PRIA, so Public Relations Institute of Australia. Oh, you're a PR person. So I was a member of that, and I thought, here's a service. Can you tell your members about it? Me being one fully paying member, right, at the time. Can you tell your members about it? Because this is a great way for them to get their clients in front of publications. There's no cost at all.
Yeah.
And they didn't do it.
What?
They didn't do it. And I even had friends, in each of the different states. I hit up each of the presidents at each of the different states. I mean, because you couldn't just go straight to the PRIA. Because they thought, in fairness, they probably thought I was trying to, spruik a service. And I was.
Well, yeah, but it's to the benefit.
That was it was a win-win for everybody. Anyway. Wow. They didn't do it. They didn't help me. And I went to school. I went to boarding school with one of the presidents in one of the states. And I think she was the only one who was a bit receptive and probably helped me a little bit. But they really just, they sat on their hands. And I don't know whether that's because, because I couldn't sort of say, the reason the sources were slow to build is because it was a new concept, right? They didn't know they had a problem that this platform solved. They didn't understand how the PR machinery worked, but PR experts did. And I thought, I just didn't understand why they would sit on their hands unless they thought, it was going to close in no time, or they had no confidence in its longevity. So anyway, it took a couple of years before I got a decent sized audience.
Wow.
To make it of any real use. We're talking back when a journalist would post a call out and I'd go, who do I know? How can I get sources? I was working as someone trying to, they had a cesarean. I wonder if they could answer that call out, or they had, and I was calling people myself to try to get them to connect, and so that journalists would get some success. But I had some great journalists support me in the early stages, and they were patient, because that's the problem in a chicken and egg business. I had to build the network, because if you didn't get an email every day, you wouldn't even know. If it's a brand new service, like, you wouldn't even know. But if you're a journalist, you post a call out and you don't have sufficient sources to actually respond to that, and you get crickets, you think, this is a dud service, I'm not going to use it again. So and that's what I'm now experiencing in Singapore. Now I have to, not that I'm saying they're getting crickets, I have to build that audience before I can promote it to the journalists in Singapore or the bloggers in Singapore.
Wow.
So, that it's the new challenge, and you have to educate them of the need for the service. It's quite a hard concept for a lot of people to get their heads around. So anyway,
fascinates me.
It's been challenging.
Wow. That is absolutely fascinating. I really would have expected, now having a little bit, certainly not heaps, but a little bit of experience dealing with journalists. And even though I have a PR background, mine is certainly not a media, primary media PR. Mine's more
Relations,
like corporate crisis type communication strategy type stuff. But, I am constantly fascinated by how overwhelmed they are with content coming at them, that I really am so shocked to hear that they just didn't grab this as soon as they heard about it. That is fascinating to me.
And the other thing, the other thing that was really surprising, so as I said, there were a couple who were fantastic. They were patient with me. A woman by the name of Fran Malloy, who I just owe so much to. She was wonderful. She still is wonderful. She still uses the service. Anyway, I'll think of a few.
Bless you, Fran. Bless you.
Think of their names. Yeah, bless you, Fran. But some of them would tell me, look, it's my delicious secret. I'm not telling anyone about it because I'm finding great sources and I don't want anyone else to know. So that was another challenge that I had not anticipated. Like, why would they keep it a secret? Well, because they don't want their editors to know that, and they don't want their, because they're
competition
all
to know. It's the secret source.
That's right. See, you're throwing these things. You are riffing, baby. That is great. It was the secret sauce. It was their delicious secret that they were going to keep to themselves. And so it just took ages to get some traction.
That is phenomenal. And I imagine with technology, also becoming very exacerbated, how many people they can be in contact with compared to even 11 years ago. If I think 11 years ago, Facebook was only just making it onto a mobile phone 11 years ago. Yeah. Didn't even have Facebook on a digital, on a device other than
mobile responsive kind of device.
Yeah. So, I can imagine, websites certainly weren't that phenomenal 11 years ago either. So I can imagine now the challenges is a different set of challenges, same but different when you come to Singapore with everything that you've learnt. Wow, what a phenomenal story. That is not what I expected at all. See, this is why I get the guests to tell their story, because that is amazing. Wow. Yes, and just to get from there to here, like you said, build it and they will come. Eventually.
Eventually. Build it. You'll starve to death if that's what you're waiting for, but eventually they'll come.
Me, I'd be like, who do I have to sleep with?
I know. I honestly, at times I was saying to my husband, he was like, I'd sold him the dream, and he's like, what? But the beautiful thing was, Aileen, was when when I reached 5,000 subscribers, which was a really big deal for me, right?
That is 5,000.
I was so excited. And because I work by myself, for myself, and I'm sort of primary care of my kids, and so I'm at home with them, and he's, and he was traveling a lot and whatever. One day I came home and I'd reached this 5,000 milestone. And of course I didn't celebrate it. You never celebrate these sort of little successes yourself. It's like, oh, cheers to me.
Yeah.
Well done, me.
Yeah.
Under my pillow was this little present. And I have to give my husband credit for the name SourceBottle, by the way, too. That was his So you and him, you guys should team up, because I'm sure you come up with better.
If there's
ideas than
wine,
me.
I'm there.
But so under there was this little daisy chain bracelet, because daisies are my favorite flower.
Oh.
And there were 5 daisies. And I was like, oh, like that's the best, right?
Oh.
So it kind of, you know, little things like that made me think, okay, I'm onto something here. I just have to educate people. I have to make them understand what's in it for them. And sometimes they just needed to start receiving it, and then they kind of went, that's how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel exactly the same about what I do with customer experience. I spend all my days educating people on why they should give a shit about customer experience, and then they start to get it and they're like, I see. I get it. You're like, you haven't seen anything yet, mate. Wait till you put the rest in place. They're like, I should have done this years ago. I'm like, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah,
we're here now. You know, if not now, then when?
Exactly.
I love that. I love that. Oh, thank you so much. That is one of the most inspiring stories I've heard in weeks, months. But we are here. This is the Value Driven Brand podcast, and you are here because, I mean, apart from that phenomenal story, you've already shown us you have a value-driven brand, and we have the deep insights for you watching and listening on how Bec believes you can also create your own value-driven brand. Are you ready? I can hear the crowds sitting in their cars going, yeah, give it to us. The stadium is roaring. So Bec, the first one that you have discussed with me is elegantly solve a problem. So talk to me about, what does that actually mean? What does that tactically look like?
Right. Well, I said it a little bit up front. I mean, I suppose I'm talking technology, and I'm not a technology expert, so I employed somebody else who did. But I needed the platform itself, although, you know, some will still say it doesn't achieve this. I needed to get out of its way. It needs to perform its function in the most simplistic, intuitive way possible. And once you get that sort of model right, then you need to stick to it and just refine slightly as you're going along. And I'm not into bells and whistles. I'm not trying to be everything to everybody. I just needed to solve that problem and to do it elegantly, because, you know, that's kind of important. So when you come to an online environment, solving something elegantly means, again, focusing on the customer experience, trying to make sure that the platform itself is intuitive enough, that it delivers on the promise, and and of course there's always going to be spokes sort of in the path, and you know, fixing things along the way, but being able to do that.
I love that. I did a LinkedIn live, or a live broadcast over a few different platforms recently about you're testing out your digital experience, and a lot of that comes down to what, well, in CX we call it UX, which is user experience, because we love everything that ends in X, and that's why I have the joy of sex behind me.
So is that what you call it? I didn't know how you pronounced it.
Yeah. So
perfect.
Slight deviation, but customer experience is the abbreviation is CX. And then you have customer employee experience, which is CEX. And then I was like, you know what? I feel like there's more to CEX than we've got here. And I have been for a period of time working around experiencing human and doing TEDx fireside chats and stuff about experiencing human, and adamant about, you know, adding this human experience into customer experience. And of course, without an employee experience, we don't have a customer experience. So I created sex, and someone said, why didn't you make it checks? And I said, because that's a cereal in the US, and I don't feel like getting a letter saying cease and desist. And I call it the joy of sex.
That's great.
And it's a little
Again,
bit polarizing.
Yeah, you're being true to your brand. It's your brand.
Well, that's it. And it's worked out.
You're a bit, I mean, when, speaking to you, you've got a little bit, you're got a bit of sass, and you're a bit irreverent, and that's wonderful. Like I love, I mean, that's being true to your brand. I love it.
Yeah. It also very much helps when people recoil. I go, that's cool. We're not going to work together. I did a presentation at the end of last year to a team to a e-commerce business up in the Gold Coast, and by the end of the presentation I had them all chanting the joy of sex, and I was like, you're my people. This is what's going to happen, but in a stadium. Like, we're going to take this to the stadiums. We're going to have people screaming the joy of sex. I can't wait.
I love it. That's great.
But yeah, so yeah, I love the elegantly solve a problem, because when we have such a technological based era at the moment, and it is not slowing down at all, where we have chat bots and DMs and websites and all that stuff. It is so imperative to just understand who you're targeting, what they need, and how they need to apply your resources to get that specific job done. And if you haven't done that, then you are, unconsciously, if not consciously, ruining your customer experience. And when you ruin your customer experience, you're certainly not deriving a value-driven brand. So I think that is a fantastic point to start with. The second one you've got, this is cool. Remain nimble and pivot to better solve the problem. Now, I'm going to be upfront. I'm so tired of the word pivot, but...
Oh my God, me too. I really hate the word.
You being in PR and the news, I'm sure you just want to but talk to me about what you mean when you say remain nimble and pivot.
When I say pivot. So what I mean is, when I first started, as I said, I was looking for that critical mass, not only to service the needs of journalists and the demands of who they were looking for, but also because my primary idea of generating income was through advertising. And so you can't advertise unless you've got eyeballs seeing it. Like, no one's going to want to pay for anything unless you've got some authority, in which case people are going to believe what you're saying, because I always write the ads in first person, as if I'm telling the story.
Yeah, I love that.
And second, if you've got 10 people receiving it, they're hardly going to be able to generate much of an income stream from that. And again, this is 11 years ago, when that was my primary, that's the lane, that's the only way I can monetize this business. Now, the funniest thing was, people started to use the service in a different way. So people would say, well, what I want. So they would pitch. So they would say, okay, rather than a call out, they were saying, I want, goodies for gift bags, or I want an expert on this particular, for that to work as part of like a media campaign. So I need, I'm selling teeth whitening products that are based on herbs. Well, I need a dentist to talk as part of that, like an authoritative figure. So I need to call out for that. So, people started using the service in all these really interesting ways that I never would have thought of. And I went, wow, well, of course. So they can get value out of that. I can monetize that, and that can be a subscription, a value add subscription. And so over the time, when I've seen someone trying to push it using something, I think, actually, the core premise is to get famous. Now, if I'm a dentist, if a PR's pushing me as an expert, that's just as good as if I'm pushing me as an expert, or a journalist is saying I'm an expert. So that works. That ticks off. That, I'm sure still trying to solve the same problem.
Yeah.
But I'll just use it in different ways. So PRs can sign up and look for case studies for media pitches. People can put, if they've got an event coming up, and you've got a product, Nivea. If you were a new product, Nivea, and
get on to it, Nivea.
People didn't know about you. People had no idea. What is this, Nivea? You didn't know about you, but your target audience was women aged this or in the corporate sector. And you had an opportunity to put a sample in a sample bag so people will experience. Well, the same sort of thing. I'm getting eyeballs and you're getting recognition and, you're raising your profile. So it'll solve the same problem. I needed to respond to it. I could accommodate that. And so then started, expert profiles was another thing. How about because people was always saying to me, I really want to, they were preparing kind of a similar sort of thing and a similar kind of profile. And they were pasting it into their response, right? And they were also kind of saying, oh, look, I want journalists to be able to find me. Like, I want your service to be able to find me, to put me forward, my profile forward to journalists without me having to do it all the time.
Yeah.
And so the problem I always had with that is I can't build a directory because journalists won't use the service. They'll just go to the directory. So it would cannibalize the service. But what I could do is when a journalist is posting a call out, they can search and they can get us then pitched if the keywords match. So it was kind of the profile evolution of the idea. And so that evolved. So that's what I made. And I hate the word pivot. I hate it probably more than you, but it was the only way I could describe. So this was the road I was traveling on. I had to slightly change direction to be responsive and still provide the same outcome.
Yeah, I love that. And I think also, it's funny that you said from the beginning you were like, this was your lane and, your eyes on the prize. The prize is making people famous. But the reality is that when we do that as business owners, we really have the potential to miss. Like, if we've got our blinkers on and we're so hard and fast into this is the way we're going to do it, we have the potential to lose so many opportunities. Like, imagine if you didn't take notice of the different ways that people were using SourceBottle. Like that, I'm on SourceBottle, so I see all of those innovations in the way that you've now adapted the website and the offering and the services. And I just think I couldn't imagine you not having those things. It makes so much sense to
it makes so much sense.
The positioning and the offer and what is SourceBottle is known for, that now it's like, I'm so glad you were aware of those things, because if you were like, no, this isn't what it's for, someone else would have come and trumped you. One else would have gone, you know what, if she's not going to do it, I got this.
I'll do it. Yeah. Exactly. And I have to, one of the other journalists I wanted to say, remember I said it would come to me, Jen Bishop. She used to be, when I first started, she was editor of Dynamic Business, Dynamic Small Business. And anyway, she went off and now she's a uber famous blogger in that interior space. She's got, anyway, but she was fabulous. She supported me as well. But yeah, the other thing is, PRs reached out to me, and so I'm very grateful, because they're like, we really need this. Like, can you do this? And I'm like, you know what? I can. And because it was just me, there's a challenge though. Because it was just me, one of the challenges is I don't have enough rigor sort of in terms of that deliberation process. There's not someone challenging me. I sort of sit through and, I'd chat to whomever would listen, but unless you understand the business and its machinations, you might not understand maybe the problems that have come around from that. So sometimes, it would have been good to have some other heads in the game, like, a board or whatever. And that's what some businesses do, which I think is a really smart idea. But yeah, back then, it was just me. And so I just decided, let's just jump in, see what happens.
I love that flexibility. And in consideration to what has been going on the last 12-ish months, the businesses that have managed to, we can call it pivot, we can call it adapt. I like to call it become flexible, consciously flexible. Those are the businesses who walked away, not unscathed, but in a lot of cases, still with their heads above water. And it's interesting, like even this morning, I was having a conversation with a colleague, and they were talking about a particular business that was quite a huge business in Australia. And because they're so huge, I'm not going to name them, but through COVID, they ended up retrenching a lot of people. And They're now in a really poor financial state to the point where they probably won't survive too much longer. And to me, it sounds a little bit unempathetic, but to me, I kind of go, well, you know what? You clearly didn't have number two sorted out. You were not nimble. You were not solving problems. You were not flexible. And this is the consequence. And it's heartbreaking because they are quite a big, employer. So it's going to have a massive effect to the Australian employment. And it just breaks my heart. I did another live, I do live broadcasts all the time, but I did another one the other day and I said, we were talking about voice of customer programs. Don't just think that because a business or an organization is a multi-billion-dollar business or, a huge brand that they've got their shit sorted. It certainly isn't a guarantee. Oh. So I think if you're a smaller business, you actually have even more responsibility to just start. If you can't be flexible when you're small, you're certainly never going to grow big and be flexible, right? That's my opinion. Don't even at me.
I totally agree.
Don't even at me. Like, if you can't do it when it's just you and the kids or, you and a few people, then you certainly, you might find success. But the first time there's a challenge in the marketplace, you probably won't get through it. Unless you then realize, oh shit, I need Aileen and Bec. Get me Aileen and Bec. They'll sort it out. We'll get you.
They'll sort it out.
We got you. All right. I love that. Now, I saw this because I follow you on Twitter. Now, just for everyone listening, what is your Twitter handle so they too can follow you?
I'm at Bec Derrington. Very simple. So creative. Like a lot of thought went into that.
Look, I call that perfect positioning, to be honest.
Yeah, thanks.
I tried to get at Aileen Day. It was taken. Phenomenal how many Aileen Days there are in this world. Phenomenal. I know. My dad's begging me. He's going, go back to your maiden name. And I'm like, ugh. I don't think they have handles that long.
What was it? Actually, I can probably tell from your email. What is it? What was your maiden name? Unless you don't want to say. Oh, my God, that's so cool.
It's so long.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is long.
I did, when my ex-husband and I broke up, 5 days before we broke up, I actually started a shoe design company called A Day in My Shoes because I had this secret passion where I wanted to design men and women's shoes. And then we broke up and I burst into tears and I said, I just opened a business with our last name. And he said, just keep it. Just keep it. Keep it. It's yours. I was like, okay. Thank you.
It's a good day. It is a great name.
It is. My Instagram handle is what a day. It's just perfect. Yeah. What a day. Everything.
I love it.
A day in my shoes. So Aileen Day in my shoes.
Yes.
So many play on words. I have a ball with it. So thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, but because I do follow you on Twitter, back to the original point.
Oh, yes.
Right. I saw you post something the other day about a gentleman called Ted Lasso. Who is he and why is he on the list of how to create a value-driven brand? I am so intrigued.
Well, Ted Lasso is a fictional character produced by a comedian by the name of, now I don't know how to pronounce his real name, Jason Sudeikis.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he's an American comedian. He's been in lots of different things, but he had created this character, Ted Lasso. And there's a great series on Apple TV that I've watched recently, and that's what that tweet was about. And by the way, he liked my tweet. Seriously. I was just so fangirling, like,
oh my God.
So anyway, it's the most wonderful series. Now, I said before, I'm a soccer mum. I have 3 boys and a husband, and so I have 4 boys in my life, and 3 of them love soccer, 2 of them in an obsessive way.
Oh, wow.
And the EPL, of course, is like, is the cream of the crop. So the English Premier League. And so we follow Everton in our house, and everything is just got a monogram of Everton on it somewhere. So we're a bit obsessed. And so when this series started, it's about a gridiron coach. So Ted Lasso is an American football coach, gridiron, in that sort of second layer amateur division, and he gets recruited by Richmond FC, so Richmond Football Club, of course, football being soccer in the UK. Richmond Football Club, which is an actual football club that isn't. It has been relegated. It's not in the Premier League status. Anyway, he gets recruited to coach that team. Oh. He doesn't know a thing about soccer because Americans call soccer like we do. Yeah. Anyway, it's the most beautiful series. It is rude. It is offensive. It is hilarious, and it's this wonderful kind of blend, which I love so much about it, because Ted Lasso is this ridiculous optimist. He finds the best in everybody. He kind of massages it out, and you can't help but your heart just sings watching it. And he does it in a funny way, which makes it even better. And then you've got the American side of it, which is very emotive. You know, all their programs, their movies and series and stuff, they're all kind of very emotive, sometimes a little too much. And the English is just going to be so incredibly dry and funny and sweary. And so, Aileen, you'd love it.
All about it.
And honestly, every second word starts with an F. And it's so wonderful. It's this beautiful marriage. Anyway, I've dribbled on long enough. But Ted Lasso, the character, I just, when I'm feeling really pissed off with someone, or I'm approaching it with a sort of like a situation with some adversity, I think, what would Ted Lasso do?
Wow.
And so my husband and I,
that type of impact.
Oh, it's just so Jared, my husband, and I keep going like, so let's just Ted Lasso this man, like, as a bit of a joke, but it's because, I mean, we've watched this series twice. Like, It's 9-10 episodes. We've watched it twice. It's just so wonderful. It's like a big warm hug that's like repeats on you.
Oh, anyway, I'm gonna have to track it down because I don't have an Apple TV.
No, well, you don't. Just subscribe. They give you there's a free period. Just watch it and watch it on your phone. Watch it on a smart device.
Oh,
just watch it. It's just so fun.
Is it children?
No.
Suitable? I mean, what if your child's used to the word F word?
Yeah, no, even if they're used to that, there's a lot of M-rated content. And,
okay. And so he might have to wait.
But it is so wonderful. Like, so how old is your son?
Nearly 11.
Nearly 11. Yeah. So my eldest is nearly 16. He'd be fine with it. But my nearly 13-year-old, like I'm saying, okay, look away. But the youngest, no chance of doing that.
So talk to me about Ted Lasso's hater bad days. For us who have not seen it, what does that mean?
So I think you Ted Lasso the haters and the bad days. So you know that. So you know that the haters are going to hate. Like, I mean, I put this on Twitter myself and on Facebook, where someone just wrote to me with feedback saying, well, they cancelled their subscription because it was a shit service. And I'm like, okay, that's great. So, and I'm like, how do I respond? Do I thank you for your feedback? How do I de-shitify the service? Like, give me something constructive. But there's going to be people like that. Yeah, so constructive. There's going to be feedback like that. And I think, Ted Lasso would say thank you so much for that feedback. Like, always rise above from the situation, just accept it, acknowledge it, cop it on the chin when you need to cop it on the chin, and just don't sort of, I suppose, don't wear it, like let it sort of wash you. Same with the bad days. There's going to be bad days. There's going to be days where everything goes wrong. For me, it'll be like I've got an advertiser and the website, so the emails don't go out for some reason. There's a server issue. Yeah. And I'll go, I can't do anything about it.
No.
It's beyond my control. Exactly. It's going to happen. And I
Yeah.
just have to just run with it and not let it envelop me. So
Yeah.
Ted Lasso it. Like, just
I love
recognize
that.
it's going to happen, move on.
That is so cool.
That's
I'm going to track down Ted Lasso. I reckon he's going to become my
Oh,
spirit
please do.
animal. I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
That makes so much more sense now. I was like, I wanted to engage with the tweet the other day when I saw it, and I was like, Aileen, sometimes you just have to accept that you don't know things, and you need to just like it and move on.
You could have said, Bec, I've got no idea what you're talking about, but
This
love your
man.
passion. Yeah. Who is this?
Who is this man you speak of? I love that.
Yes.
Now, this next one is, I'm a big fan of it. And I actually have, of course, people can't see it, but next to my desk, I have a to-don't list, right? Not a to-do list. I have a to-don't list. And
Yes.
one of my mentors, Lisa O'Neill from Thought Leaders Business School, got me onto this. And she said, I create a to-don't list and I put it up next to my desk, and it reminds me of all the things I should not do. And it is very aligned to number 4 of yours, because number 4 of yours says, do the work. And on my to-don't list, it says, don't expect success without the effort.
Nice.
So what does do the work mean?
Well, look, you can think of plenty of excuses as to why something doesn't happen. But the easiest way to make something happen is to just do the work. So I mean, at times I feel overwhelmed with what that means for me. But if you don't do the work, then you can't expect the rewards of the work. So, apply it to exercise. I haven't been going to the gym. That's why my bum looks the way it does, right? Okay. So if I do the work, then it won't look the way it does. Like, I'm sure there'll be an improvement. So you need to do the work.
Yes, funny you say exercise. Me and exercise generally aren't friends. I'm not a big fan.
It's dangerous. It's dangerous, Aileen.
People get hurt doing exercise. Look, one of my friends just broke their ankle the other day playing soccer.
Yeah.
I was like, what? A real injury in soccer? Behold. Yes. No, I think it's so true. I do talk. God, I talk a lot, but I do, I talk a lot about working smart. So, I think you can certainly, like you said, you can get overwhelmed. And I don't know if you've read it, but I got, there's a lady called Julia Steele who got me onto this book. And I don't think I have it here. I think it's in my other office, but it's called The War of Art. Right, so we've heard of The Art of War by Sun Tzu, or how we pronounce it. This is the War of Art, and it is a phenomenal, very easy to read book, and it is all about doing the work, and it is all about.
You've got to put that in the show notes. You've got to put that in the show notes.
I'll put the recommendation. Right, it is. I did. So I lead a business accelerator program called the Momentum Business Accelerator. And whenever anybody reads a book, I encourage them to do what we call a TLDR. So too long, didn't read.
Oh, yeah, too long, didn't read.
Ever since I signed up to AppSumo, hey Noah, hi.
Same.
Right? Oh my God, that's a guy I fangirl over. He replied to my tweet once, I got a cold sweat.
Well done.
I know. So I love that in AppSumo they do TLDR, and before that I'd actually never really come across it. I was like, I had to go Google because I'm old now.
I did the same.
What is this fandangled language they use?
That's right.
And then when I found out,
do I include that in my ads? No, people wouldn't get it.
When I found out what it was, I was like, oh my God, I love this. I love this concept. And so for my Momentum group, my Momentum Business Accelerator, we're avid readers for most parts. But I thought, how fun would it be if we could learn from the books that other people were reading from. So now we
Yes.
have this kind of, thing, and it helps with engagement and everything like that, and continuous learning, where when somebody's reading a book, every chapter they go in and they create a thread in the MBA book club, and they do a TLDR of that chapter. Right?
Oh, that's so clever. I love it.
Yes. So the problem was when I read The War of Art. I have both books, by the way. When I read The War of Art, my TLDR, which is traditionally it's meant to be about 4 bullet points per chapter, right? It's very, very succinct and summarized understanding of what you've just read. I pretty much was just taking screenshots of the pages, posting the whole thing.
Oh.
It's like, I can't pick which part is for you to just not read. You have to read the whole thing. And then it got to the point where I was like, no, Aileen, you have to choose. And then I was like, instead of cheating and taking, screenshots, I'll type them into my notes, and then I'll transpose my notes into the thread. And then I was like, yeah, this will be better because, I don't want to have to type everything. And then when I transposed them, I looked back and I went, oh my God, I've literally just retyped the bloody whole book.
Whole page. Oh, look, I hear you. I mean, I do things like on a Kindle, I'll highlight things.
Yeah.
And you can take a screenshot of that.
Yeah.
I used to think TL should stand for too lazy. Like too lazy, didn't read, like too lazy. Do read yourself. Yeah, I don't know.
Yes, that would be perfect. That is so perfect.
Do the work.
Yeah.
I'm really walking the talk here. I'm really advertising.
I call that working smart. Working smart, not hard, right?
Well, you know what, actually, Aileen, my eldest son tends to be a bit on the lazy side, and one of the things he comes up as a result of it, he comes up with the best shortcuts to do just about everything.
See?
And I read once that what's his name, the founder of Microsoft, the one who's yet divorced,
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates, yeah, forgot about him. Bill Gates said, that guy. Bill Gates said that he loves employing lazy people because they will identify the most efficient way to get something done. And my son is an example of that. And I'm like, yeah, like he comes up with things like, I've been doing it the long way forever. He found a shortcut. I'm like, oh, that's
same outcome.
I was like, same outcome.
Do it. I'm all about it. Yeah.
Anyway,
absolutely.
So do the work. That's kind of going against what I'm saying, but
I mean, do the work smart. Do the work smart. I mean, yes, there's blood, sweat, and tears in what we do. Of course there is. And if there wasn't, you wouldn't value it. You wouldn't appreciate. You wouldn't have gratitude for what you've accomplished. But that's not to say that everything needs to be a hard slog forever and ever. And if anything, the bigger you get, the harder the slog, the more likely are you not going to succeed, actually. So, find those people who can help you do things better and, and still have that quality outcome, but do the bloody work. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I love that. So the last piece that you've sent me is it's never about the money. It's never about the money.
It's never about the money. Like, I think with this, one of the biggest challenges I had when I started having to speak about SourceBottle was because I'm not someone who's very comfortable in promoting a service, promoting myself. Like I always choke when someone gives me a compliment. I don't quite know what to do. And yet I had to kind of do that. And so you kind of need to get out of the way and say, okay, the way I will sell this is by, if I look at it as I'm helping to solve their problem, in which case I can speak seriously and passionately about how I can you can use this service to solve your problem. And so all of a sudden it doesn't matter. Now, if your passion is to help people solve their problems in a way that you have a unique expertise, then if they value the way that you're solving that problem, the money will come.
Yeah.
If you start something for the purposes, I mean, I was a lawyer by training, right? So
Wow.
if I was serious about, if I was serious about, the only thing that came out of my law degree was the fact that in the law firm, the first law firm I worked in, I met my husband. So excellent. But beyond that, really. But, you know, I was miserable. And look, I could have, if I decided money was the primary motivator for me in terms of my work, I could have been a very miserable, probably quite wealthy lawyer.
Yeah.
And, you know, and well, it just couldn't happen. My heart hurt too much. Like I just couldn't do that. I was always better in this kind of world, which I love, like I devour, I love it. So I'm much more effective at helping people, and as a result, you know, it pays off.
Yeah. And
so
I
kind of
it's so funny. Like I did a speaking job the other day for a company, and it was all about communicating to your team and through, you know, situations like last year and whatnot. Yeah. And the result of that was, at the end of it, everyone was like, oh my God, that was amazing, or you're so passionate, or that was so authentic. And it's so funny, you say like you choke when people give you a compliment. I used to cry. That's how bad I was at getting compliments. People would go, you are amazing. I'm like, don't people tell you that? I'm like, maybe because this happens. Yes. But it's so funny, because if you want me to talk about customer experience or the joy of sex, or, you know, how that's going to fix your, you know, your issues in business and whatnot, I will devour that. But the second someone says, how do you fix it? I'm like,
yeah,
I don't want to tell you about me. I'm like, I don't know. I choke. Still do. Yeah. That's why this whole media thing, it was so funny when we did Kate Engler's Meet the Press Masterclass, and the last day of the masterclass was, you know, yourself and all of the journalists coming around, and you had to pitch to them. Out of everybody, everybody's like, oh my God, you're so confident. And then it came to the crux of it, and I just wanted to cry. I was like, I hate, as much as everybody thinks I'm probably like, you know, very high bravado and stuff like that, I hate talking about myself. I get really self-conscious, and I just feel so arrogant.
Yeah.
People say, tell me what you've done. And I'm like, I don't want to. I just want it to speak for itself. Why don't you already know?
Yeah. Look me up.
Look me up. You'll find, I'm so pleased. You know what, I have a brand vision. So my brand vision is that I want to influence 10 million business owners, leaders, and entrepreneurs on how to live a value-driven life through having a value-driven brand.
Yes.
But I have a personal vision that when you Google just Aileen, Aileen, that you won't be confronted with a serial killer. And you'll see my face instead. Because the most famous Aileen Wuornos, is a serial killer.
True.
So
it's hard when you sort of, you're sharing a namesake with that.
I've really got some work to get ahead.
I think a little bit there.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, same deal. If you can just get past playing small, if you can get past, you know, just getting out of your own bloody way and just doing the things that you know you're good at and the things that help others, the money will come.
And then also, you know, the second part of that too, and this is something I've always struggled with, I still do, is valuing your time, particularly if you charge for your time.
Yeah.
Valuing your time enough to actually put yourself out there and say, I'm worth that. Like that's the next step. I mean, if you're in that kind of industry, I'm not so much in that kind of industry, but if you are, and you're selling your services and it's sort of time-based or a consultant-based or even a product-based, but it's kind of your product, your intellectual property, then having the confidence and saying, I'm worth that. Like that's a tough gig.
It's scary. You know, quick story, 2 years ago, I used to charge $80 an hour.
Yeah.
$80 an hour. And some people listening might go, oh, wow, that's a lot of money. Well, you know, when you're 1 in 5 people in the country who has the experience I have, probably even less, to be honest, $80 an hour is a pittance. And so then I got challenged to put my prices up, and I put them up to a whopping $120 an hour.
Wow.
And I got laughed at, and I was like, no, that's heaps. And then I met a gentleman last year doing a business group called Kerwin Ray, K2 Elite. And I met a gentleman called Martin Eade, and he is known as the sales strategist. And he basically said, you are doing yourself and your customers a complete disservice by not having that self-worth. You have to. If you don't have that self-worth, nobody else will have it for you. And he challenged me at the point of this podcast going live last year to make sure that I didn't release the website, so the Value Driven Brand, without the most worthy of prices attached to it. And it was very funny. So the price went to $500 an hour.
Yep.
Which still makes me feel sick saying that out loud. And it's very funny when you say that to people, because I said that to an old colleague of mine and they choked and they said, why do you think you're worth that? And then I said to a new colleague of mine, it's $500 an hour, and he didn't flinch. And I went, that's interesting. And then I said it to a mentor of mine. I said, I've put my prices up. And he said, have you? I said, yes, they're very expensive. And he laughed at me and he said, show me. So I showed him and he laughed at my website. He said, Aileen, that's not expensive. I said, no, it is. It's very expensive. And he said, Aileen, we use consultants all the time who are much less intelligent than you, and they earn 4 times that in an hour. So please don't undersell yourself. Have some self-worth. And I was like, this is self-worth. This is self-worth. So it's so funny. It's so funny that it really is just so different. People's perception of what worthiness is just phenomenal. But
it's true.
If you don't have it for yourself, nobody else is going to have it for you.
That is very, very profoundly true. That's so true.
Yeah.
I think it's also being a female too. Can I just say? I just ask being a female having problems about valuing your time? Can I just say the first colleague you said when they went, wow, that's expensive, were that from the old life? Were they female?
No.
Because I thought the second one you said he. I thought, oh, okay. Okay, so
no,
right, well, that's interesting. Well, yeah.
All men. Yeah. But I think, you know, the first one who asked me has a very limited experience with, you know, consultants and entrepreneurs and stuff like that. And in their experience, they hire IT consultants predominantly, and they pay, you know, $1,000, $1,500 a day for an IT consultant. So in his mind, all I do is I tell people how to run a business. So that's not even that hard. Which it's actually really hard.
Yes,
and it's like herding cats some days. But so in his mind, he thinks that's not a very difficult job. So why would you think that you could charge more than someone that had to go to uni for 6 years? And I'm like, well, I went to uni too, you know.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, yeah, that's right. I did.
Yeah. So it's just, it's different experiences, different comprehensions and perspectives. But at the end of the day, you have to know what you're worth, and you have to. And then I think that the thing is sticking to it. Like you said, you know, I shake in my boots when people ask me what my hourly rate is, and it makes me feel sick to say $500. But I know that if I don't say $500, that I'm not valuing myself anymore. And I put a line in the sand after dealing with Martin and doing work with him. I was like, you know what? The line is in the sand. I'm not. It's now on the website. I now have to back up. It's for everyone to see now.
That's the hard backstop. Exactly.
Yeah.
Good work.
Exactly.
I think that's great.
So yeah. And then I get laughed at, getting told that's not enough. Oh God, let's just stick with that for a little bit longer.
I'll let that settle, you know, set like jelly, and then we'll see what happens.
Then we'll move forward. Exactly right. Oh, Bec, it has been such an absolute pleasure to hang out with you. I knew from the day I met you at the Meet the Press Masterclass, I was like, this woman, we're going to be friends. I can see it, feel it in my water, as they say.
Oh, thank you, Aileen. It's been really fun. It's actually one of the most fun podcasts I've ever done. You're really good.
That's so exciting. You're amazing. Thank you. I love that. I think, you know, you can have so many dreary podcasts, but that's not me. I think if you're ever watching my podcast and it's a dreary podcast, probably know I'm not enjoying myself.
Yeah, actually, that's probably a bit dead giveaway. Another really great thing about Ted Lasso, and this is one thing that I think is there's a fabulous scene, and I'm not going to say too much, but because I definitely want you to watch it, and then I want you to hit me up when you have.
Yep.
But there's a thing where he talks about being curious, and I think sometimes when you feel like, I'm getting nothing here, like there is just no energy, like I think sometimes curiosity can be the thing that can spark energy in other people, and being curious and trying to find out a bit more about them. And if you are an actually curious person, you'll find some interest somewhere.
Yeah,
that's right. You have to be. I mean, the sort of questions you ask shows that you are.
Yeah, absolutely. People say I'm a control freak because I want to know everything, and I'm like, no, I'm just curious.
That's right. I think curiosity is the thing that keeps it's the secret to eternal youth. Because if you're always curious, things will always interest you. So there you go.
And I think if you are a naturally curious person, you can find so much amazing information in just about everything, even the most boring of people. But you know, we try to steer clear of them anyway.
Exactly.
Right. Well, they are. If you are listening in, of course you are, because you're bloody smart. Watching this podcast, listening to this podcast, I want to say thank you. Bec, you are a bloody champion. I am so in awe of the amazing work that you do, that you have continued to stand by, and the help and support that you provide the media and for those trying to get and getting into the media. And personally, as a user of your product, I appreciate you. So, but there is one more thing that we have to do before I let you go. So, if you have joined us before, you're also going to know where this is heading. And if you haven't, what happens next is that every guest that comes onto the podcast gets asked to fill out a guest profile form. And part of that guest profile form is there is one question that I want to know. What is the song that pumps you up for anything? What gets you out of bed? What gets you out of that shitty mood? What gets you ready for that meeting that you just don't want to get into, or gets you ready for the meeting you do want to get into? So do you remember this? Now this is a banger. Do you remember the song that you told me?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
I do. It's called Work
by
Kelly Rowland. Kelly Rowland. Oh, it's so embarrassing. But yes, I do.
I love that song. That was her first hit after leaving Destiny's Child. And that song is already on pretty much all of my playlists. I'm a big fan of Kelly. So you might not know this, but every guest that comes onto the Value Driven Brand podcast gets asked this same question, and the answer for the song that they provide goes into the Aileen Day guest. I can't even think of the name of the Spotify. It goes into its own Spotify playlist. That's what it does.
Oh my God, I imagine the mix has got. But listen, can I just say, it's not my favourite song. It's just the song that answers what your question. What gets me in, like if I need to motivate myself to go for a walk or anything.
Oh, were you going to say run?
Yeah, no, that would just be ridiculous and everyone would know I was lying.
I was like, I don't run for anybody. If someone's chasing me, just do what you got to do. Here's my purse. Let's go for gold. I love that. Well, that is perfect. That is exactly what we wanted. The song that gets you ready to walk fast, certainly not run, but gets you pumped up for anything. So when this goes live, you will be also able to, at valuedrivenbrand.com/podcast series, find this recording, all of the resources attached to getting in touch with Bec. You can find my recommendation for the Art of War, and you will also be able to download the Spotify playlist and find Bec's contribution to the very eclectic playlist that is going to get you pumped up for everything and anything. Bec Derrington, you are a bloody champion. Thank you truly for all of your wisdom and insights, and congratulations on getting SourceBottle into Singapore. If you are somebody that wants to head into the media, get your face seen, become famous because you are a giver, not a taker. I want to see the givers getting onto SourceBottle.com, and all of the details will be available at Value Driven Brand podcast series /podcast series, and any other resources that we can help to get you in your face in the media will be there as well. Bec Derrington from SourceBottle, thank you so truly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aileen.
For everybody else, please get out there and deliver value to somebody in your life, because if we don't know by now, what goes around comes around. I'm Aileen Day. Until next time. Thanks for listening to the Value Driven Brand podcast with your host, Aileen Day. Is your business struggling to become known as the sought-after leader in your industry? Access our Value Driven Brand quiz and special 3-part podcast series to identify the gaps and what you need to focus on first. Go to www.valuedrivenbrand.com/podcast series. That's valuedrivenbrand.com/podcast series. Tune in next time where we discuss more ideas on how you can deliver your own value-driven brand.